Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. It's going to be open line at 1 p.m., but at first, get a chance to talk to Mr. Robert Hendricks, spokesman for the Jehovah's Witness. We're going to give you an insight into an upcoming convention. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow,
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us as we invite you to share alongside the community to, learn as much as you can to be as inclusive and as informed as we go to the phone and welcome Mr. Robert Hendricks. Hey, good afternoon. It's good to chat with you again.
It is good to chat with you as well. I just listened to our interview from last year, and it went really deep. So you're a deep interviewer. Appreciate though all your insights.
Well, thank you. And I can't believe it was a year ago already. I tried to cope with many things through humor, and I joke and jest and say, boy, last year and the year before were 2 long centuries. It feels that way.
It does indeed. We've been through so much. I think I said this on the last interview that there is no normal after COVID. It's a new normal. We're changed. We're changed people. Our brains have been rewired. Our systems have changed, and hopefully most of us have come out better people because of the enduring this very difficult time. I know our organization has, I believe.
And I'm glad that you share that, because I think if we were individually to reflect on ourselves, I have a good friend who always reminds me it's important to self-develop. We do it in our professions. Sometimes we're required as part of that development, the professional development that we're supposed to undertake. But maybe for organizations, we can rethink, re-energize, not just retool, but this new normal that we reference. I'm very, very, very taken with your comments. Thanks for the complimentary words. But we are in a different time, and your conventions, we talk about pursuing peace. We see the turmoil in the globe. We see the turmoil in the region. We probably see the turmoils in our own communities. But I wonder what about the internal turmoil within our hearts as well.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I think that the turmoil and the lack of peace starts with the individual. Mm-hmm. And that's what this convention is all about. It's really starting with me. Because really the peace that we're talking about is not an external peace. I don't think we can hope for that anytime soon. We can't hope for our communities to be completely at peace. They're more divided than ever. But we can start with ourselves individually, being at peace with God. Jesus said, happy are the peacemakers. And that's what this convention is all about, really helping people to see that it's not simply about being at peace. That's great. That's wonderful. But you can be at peace by locking your door and being in your living room and watching television. But to be a peacemaker, to pursue peace is very, very different. And this convention, all 6 segments of it, really help us to see how we can do that on an individual level, how we can do it on a family level, and how we can do it on a community level. But also how we can do things and practice things in our life that could rob us and others of peace. And so all of this really, after 3 days, so far it's been 2 for us, but after 3 days, I think all of us will come out really understanding the tools that we need in order to pursue peace individually and as a community.
And that need to pursue peace, I mean, you say, it starts with us. How do we go about that process? I'm looking at, something someone's saying, and we're grateful that we have positive, optimistic people in our lives. And, as I was reading what was shared, it talked about, knowing yourself, knowing others spiritually. But that comes from first, being submissive and knowing the Word.
It does. And so it starts with being at peace with God. And how are we at peace with God? Mm-hmm. Well, as Jehovah's Witnesses, as Christians, those who follow Christ, we try to follow him. We don't do it perfectly, but we're practicing Christianity every day. And he was at peace, but yet the entire world was in turmoil at that time. We think about how many people actually responded to his message. And at the end, after he was resurrected, no doubt, there were only about 500. He had fed tens of thousands. He had healed thousands. He had raised people from the dead. And yet here's a man, the greatest man who ever lived, who walked the earth. He was surrounded by those who were divided and at war with him, and that's why they killed him. And so that's our example, because ultimately he was at peace. He had his peace with his Father. He had peace with his brothers and sisters who surrounded him, and he was at peace in leaving them a very special commitment, and that was, I will be with you till the end of this system of things. And the fact that Jesus is with us, it gives us the ability to rally around what he wants us to do and be identified as his followers. John 13:35, we mentioned it last year. He said right before he left them, this was the last night of his life here on the earth, the last night of his life before his death. And he said, you will know my people because they will have love among themselves. Love, really, when it comes down to it, is the very foundation of peace. Because loving God brings us peace. Loving each other brings us peace. Having love in our hearts brings us peace. And nothing, when you have that, external can rob that from you.
And as I listen to you, certainly want to not only, feel blessed and have a chance to be witness to, but as we speak to the ministry, we hear and read things in the scripture, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. We talk about, the poor in spirit and the like. And I wonder to what extent we understand how that resonates with us. What does that mean? And when we look at today, the pursuit of materialism, those in power and authority, instead of, to my mind, understanding that the greatest exercise of power is restraint. But it seems that people believe that, if you carry the car, the gold, the gun, that is how you wield power, as opposed to humility, honesty, integrity, love. How do we then get people to start to appreciate it? These are not just, stories from a nice book. These are not things that are fables and just happen. These were real things believed by people today to still be possible.
I think it's not easy to convince someone in a violent world that they should sit back and not be ready for violence to beget violence. I mean, I was reading a story today about one of the cities in the United States where somebody said everybody here is armed, and so. What does a person initially feel with that? Well, I have to go out and arm myself too. I have to learn how to defend myself. But really, the evidence that doesn't work is all around us. Mm-hmm. The most violent places are the people where people have armed themselves. The most violent places are people are where people have become divided politically and socially. Religiously, and they've let those divisions affect them and be between them. Mm-hmm. But when you look at Jesus' teachings and then you begin to practice them in your life, just give it a taste, you'll see that you will be at peace. Matthew chapter 5, 6, and 7, you just referenced it, the Beatitudes in Matthew chapter 5. That there's a very interesting very interesting scripture. You just quoted it, but I'm going to quote it from the New World Translation because it helps us to see what it means. You said, happy are those who are poor in spirit. But the actual Greek there is really talking about how somebody is conscious of their spiritual needs. So happy are those conscious of their spiritual need. When you say poor in spirit, it's exactly the same thing. Happy are those who are hungry for spirituality. Now, here's the thing. Jesus taught us that we basically have three needs, right? We have the need, and it's intuitive. We have the need to be fed physically. We have physical needs. We have emotional needs, and we have spiritual needs. Now, if you think about the average person, whether on Cayman or in the United States or around the world, the average person, what do they spend their most time on? Filling the physical needs, right? Isn't it true? We spend our entire day trying to make the money, and we get it. It's hard in this world, sometimes 6 or 7 days a week. Then we come home and we eat, and then we fill our physical need for sleep. And there's not much time for anything else. People, understandably so, are focused on their physical needs. Many don't focus at all on their emotional needs until there's a crisis in their family or in their life. And very few, even fewer, focus on their spiritual need. And Jesus said, happy are those who are conscious, understand they have that need, because if you understand that you are hungry spiritually, even if you've tried to stave off that hunger, even if you've tried to ignore that, if you understand that, you will fill that need. And when you fill that spiritual need by following Christ and following his teachings, you are satisfied, satiated. You feel more whole as a person. And that's what Jesus was talking about. And in fact, if we just look at Matthew chapter 5, 6, and 7, the Sermon on the Mount, 3 chapters in the Bible, you can read it in about a half an hour, and you meditate on those points, and you put them into practice, your life will be better. And that's the proof that this works, by giving it a try and trying to follow these beautiful principles that he's laid out in these 3 chapters.
Well, when we come back from the break, I mean, as you were speaking, I was thinking, even look at how we celebrate through song, right? Some popular songs. Let's get physical. That whole thing on Madonna's Material Girl, living in the material world. We seem to forget the importance of the emotion and the spiritual need and the absolute, need to satisfy those. So after the break, let's talk more about that. Could I invite you about some of the translations, the interpretation, applications of Scripture? I like when you went back to the Greek and to see how that plays in. And then, of course, we talk about the convention. I want to learn, man, so teach me. All right?
Yeah, right. I'd be happy to. Thank you.
Good. Let's pause and take that break. And when we come back, we'll continue the discussion with Mr. Robert Hendricks in a Pursuit of Peace. 1 p.m. onwards, it'll be open line. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Subway makes it easy for you to stay on top of your health and wellness goals with our Fresh Fit menu options. Choose from 5 Fresh Fit Subway sandwiches with only 450 calories or less per 6-inch sub. Turkey breast, veggie, oven roasted chicken, Black Forest ham, sweet onion chicken teriyaki, or make your 6-inch Fresh Fit sub into a salad or wrap prepared with fresh vegetables. For a full menu and nutritional information, visit subway.ky. Subway, eat fresh.
Get the drive with Lucasade Energy. Buy Lucozade and enter for a chance to win the grand prize of a Toyota Hilux. Plus, win up to 500,000 instant prizes, including Fitbit watches, GoPros, earbuds, Amazon gift cards, and free Lucozade. To enter, buy one of the Lucozade Energy promo bottles and look under the cap for your code. Enter it online or send it via WhatsApp. See press and social media for details. Buy, win, and get the drive with Lucozade Energy today. Lucozade, taste the energy.
Did you know that ValueMed Pharmacy has a free online prescription service? Managing your health and medical requirements has never been easier with ValueMed. Simply visit value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com and click the Refill Prescriptions tab on our website. Fill in the information for new prescriptions or refills and choose your preferred pickup location. ValueMed on Walkers Road or Town. Then bring in your original prescription from your doctor when picking up. There's no need to stand in line and wait for your prescription. Save time and pick up prescriptions at your convenience by visiting value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com.
The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you. The current pension holiday is set to expire September 30th. Employers and employees will be required to recommence the legally specified pension contributions effective with October earnings. If you have any questions or concerns, please visit our website at chamberpension.ky or contact us at admin@pensions.ky. The Chamber Pension Plan, representing large and small employers in all sectors of Cayman's economy.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And thanks for joining us, and thanks too for the opportunity to speak to Mr. Robert Hendricks, the national spokesman for the Jehovah's Witness. And I think in a community like Cayman, the ability to recognize the various nationalities, to be able to celebrate amongst the many religions, and importantly to draw alongside all of us from all walks of life. So, Robert, thank you very much, sir, for this opportunity. And hopefully as people listen to us, that we start to look within, find within our hearts a desire to serve and to be of value and to draw alongside and express and exhibit that agape love.
It's a beautiful thought, and really that's what it's all about. Hopefully we can reach hearts with our discussion today.
Amen, amen. And especially at a time like this, because there are many who are quick to condemn, not just good, but condone bad. Many who are willing to, as a friend reminded me again last evening, it seemed that it was not long ago when the truth was hidden from people. Now it seems like the people hide from the truth.
Well, that's true. But it's not surprising. When we really come down to it, we know that there are many who are enjoying a life that is alienated from God, and it's very sad. And ultimately, it will be something that brings them a lot of sadness and lack of peace. But Isaiah, you're probably familiar with the scripture in Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20. Where it says that, woe to those who say that good is bad and bad is good, those who substitute darkness for light and light for darkness, those who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Yeah. Really, we see that today. And so that doesn't really affect us, though, because individually we can make a difference. We can make a change in our own lives and have a personal relationship with our Creator. And that's really the basis of true peace and true happiness.
If I can ask you, because I know many listening now will immediately tune out and turn off. And there are those who would draw alongside and feel a sense of fear and trepidation. And I would ask you, as we speak to this part, that we speak to leadership, political, elected and appointed leadership in our homes, in our schools, when we see what's transpiring, and some would point to the scripture and say, well, in the last days, good will be bad and bad will be good. Refer to all the things, you say the opposite of what it is, right? And how do we get to a place now where people see this as something real? We all know that what you do this instant affects our future. It's everything we do affects our future. And if we're living in the last days because of terminal illness, or if we subscribe to the scripture that the end is nigh, But we are living in times such as this. How do we draw alongside to make it as best as we can? Not because we're making more money or we're building a personal legacy that would invite some statue to be erected in our honor or some building to be named of us, but to be of service, to be of invaluable service.
I think that you've just said it in your last statement. Jesus has said, the greatest among you will be your minister, your servant. Mm-hmm. The greatest among you will be the one who serves somebody else. Mm-hmm. That's what Jesus did. He said, I didn't come to be ministered to. I came to minister and to give my life as a soul as a ransom for many. Mm-hmm. And you think about the greatest man who ever lived. I think most people, many of your listeners will agree the greatest man who ever lived was Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he lived a fulfilling life, the most fulfilling life ever lived, because he was perfect and he made his Father glad and joyful. 3 times his Father said, or twice he said, this is my Son, I have approved you. And he was happy with the way Jesus walked the earth. But did Jesus have a home to live in, a permanent home? Well, he said he didn't even have a place to lay his head. Did Jesus have a powerful political position? No, he rejected that. He said, my kingdom is no part of this world. Did Jesus have riches stored up? No, he had a money box that allowed for him to share what he had with others so that they could buy food. And we know that he did that not only with money, but also miraculously. Jesus was here to serve. And that model is the model of the greatest life that's ever been lived. Therefore, following his footsteps, as Peter talked about, mm-hmm. is really going to bring us the most fulfillment.
So look at, if you help me to understand, we hear the word servitude and we hear the word service, and somehow we think they're one and the same. And for those of us who are servers, who are willing to serve, we're talking about servant leader and the like. But the word minister you reference and the way we use that today, is it not minister, the person of service, as you said? You're there to be of service, to serve?
Absolutely. The word minister comes from the Greek word diakonos. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, over time, that has elevated people. In other words, I'm a minister, therefore I'm important. Mm-hmm. But that's exactly opposite from what Jesus said. Mm-hmm. And serving has nothing to do with servitude, not to any man anyway.
Right.
Serving means giving of yourself to help others. And in that way, you help yourself. Remember the inspired words of the Apostle Paul in Acts chapter 10, verse 35, a beautiful, beautiful thought, or 20:35. He said in Acts 20:35, he said he had received this from the Lord, Jesus. So somehow he received these words, and this was the principle. There is more happiness in giving than there is in receiving. Mm-hmm. And so what is that all about? It's about serving. And all the studies today show, whether it's a psychological study, whatever we see in research, shows that when somebody has service, helping others, as the main part of that person's life, they live a more fulfilling life. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows intellectually that money doesn't bring you happiness. Prominence doesn't bring you happiness. In fact, for many, it brings grief. Mm-hmm. But yet, because that's a fleshly need, because people, that satisfies a fleshly desire, the physical, remember the 3 aspects, mm-hmm. the physical, then people tend to choose that road, but it doesn't make them happy.
Right.
And so when we look at what Jesus did, the way he lived his life, and then what he told us to do, he wanted us to serve others. And in that service, we have peace, joy, and love.
And as I listen to you, I keep thinking that increasingly, especially now, and not to pick on ministers of government, ministers of NGOs through, or whether they're organizations created by world governments or ministers of religion. But I say that to go back to what I asked before the break, translation, interpretation, application. I wonder if over the years, the way that the scriptures have been translated, the way we've interpreted, and the way we choose to apply it, in order to sort of self-elevate, perhaps even to reposition things in a way. To what extent then do you think we're doing not only ourselves and the scriptures a disservice, but our wider society, because maybe we don't understand it. Maybe we're happy with how it is because it plays to our favor, whether we know better or not. What are your thoughts with respect to that? The whole idea, how we translated it, how we applying it, and sometimes even our interpretations of the scriptures.
Well, there are many people who are ministers of government and serving in many ways in this world and in Cayman who have good motives. They want to do what's right, and they've entered this kind of service because they want to help others. So we're certainly not putting them down at all. However,
no.
When you look at the scriptures, it is very clear that Jesus' life is the life to live. That's the model, and so the Bible can be interpreted in many, many different ways if you choose to. If you take things out of context, right? But when you put it back in the context, the Bible interprets itself. And so what does ministering to others mean? Well, it means being like Jesus and being like his apostles. They didn't elevate themselves. They walked in sandals, and they walked from city to city, from village to village, from door to door, house to house, and they shared the gospel with people. And they not only shared it through their mouth vocally, but they lived it, and living it made them targets of the government, targets of opposers, targets of those who are of other faiths, but yet they maintain their peace and their love. We look at those examples, and those are the examples that define Christianity today, or they should. They should define what does it mean to be like Christ. Well, he is the living portrait in the Gospels of what it means to live a good life and what it means to live a satisfying life. And so if we have a problem with the interpretation of the word diakonos in the scriptures, all we have to do is close our eyes and think about who Jesus was and watch him in our mind's eye, if we know him and we've read the Gospels. Be like that, and then we are living as a minister.
I appreciate that. We'll take the final break of our discussion, and when we come back, maybe you can tell us more about the upcoming convention, a bit more, of the highlights and the like, and share with us if you wish. All right, let's pause and take that short break, and when we come back, more Talk Today.
Busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
Subway is giving you flavor around the clock with the new Chicken Squad sandwich options. Try the classic chicken and bacon ranch, the sweet and savory barbecue chicken, or the chicken cordon bleu. 3 new appetizing and delicious sub options that you can also make into a wrap. The Chicken Squad is available at Subway for only a limited time. Subway, giving you something to cluck about.
Breitling watches are defined by quality, innovation, and style, and you have the chance to win one in August during Kirk Freeport's 50th anniversary sweepstakes. Each month, lucky shoppers have the chance to win a piece of jewelry or a watch from luxury brands. Every purchase of $100 at any Kirk Freeport store gains you entry into the monthly drawing, so stop in today. Next up, September's prize is the Chopard Happy Dreams bracelet. View terms and conditions on KirkFreeport.com.
The Department of Environmental Health would like to advise Cayman Brac residents that due to elevated seasonal temperatures, garbage collection services will now start at 4 a.m. during July and August. To avoid missed collections, please place your garbage in the enclosure a night before your scheduled pickup. For more information, contact the DEH office in Cayman Brac at 948-2321.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks so much for joining us, and thanks to Mr. Robert Hendricks, the national spokesman for Jehovah's Witness. And as you remind us, one of the scriptures talked about is blessed. It is more blessed to give than to receive. And I think from that perspective, though, I think many of us take advantage of the givers in our society, those who feel that they're late to serve, called to serve. So, Mr. Hendricks, from that perspective then, the upcoming Pursue Peace Convention, will you share more with us about it?
Absolutely. First of all, it's available for free with anonymously at jw.org. You just have to go to the homepage and navigate to it. It's pretty simple. But it's also available on JW Library app, which is an iOS or Android operating system app. And all of that is free. You can actually download the app and download the convention right into your app and watch it on the road if you want to. It's quite a miracle of an app, because in that app alone we have 600,000 video and audio publications and some 200,000 written publications. And all of this is in 500 languages. So if you're comfortable in a different language, you can learn in the language of your heart. But we've just released our Sunday morning session, because our conventions are typically 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And so we've maintained that format even virtually through releasing it in 6 different segments. The 5th segment, which was released this week and which many congregations will be watching this weekend, really deals with this beautiful theme, a scriptural theme from Romans chapter 15, verse 13. May the God who gives hope fill you with all joy and peace. And it's a beautiful program, especially this morning program that's been released. It concludes with our public discourse entitled Friendship with God, How Possible? I know that you were talking about that, Sterling, the friendship with God. How is that even possible today? Mm-hmm. But it also, before that, gives examples of those who were friends of God. Joseph, the Gibeonites, Gideon, Abigail, Paul and Barnabas, and how they maintained peace, how they sowed and reaped peace. And so it's a very practical program. Friday is beautiful too. It's all awesome. But Friday morning especially talks about family peace. I love it. Family peace. Beautiful, beautiful program on Friday where we are able to really learn in a number of different ways, not simply simply just through Bible passages being read to us, but in the afternoon of that day, follow the roadmap to family peace. It has 4 subjects: show love and respect, improve communication, work as a team, and worship God together. And it has not only talks, but a dramatization that weaves its way through all of that symposium of a family that is blended, a blended family, a step family, a wife who was a widow and who gets married to somebody who had a family, and they put the families together like so many of our families, and they struggled. But it talks about their struggles as in the drama, but also the way they achieved unity and peace in their family. And it's really good for families. It's good for all of us. And it's that kind of practical instruction that makes our Pursue Peace regional convention so powerful for so many.
And I think as I listen to, I'm looking at a message from one of our listeners that, says, love is the answer. Talks about, let me probably best if I read some of it verbatim, because as he was speaking to the whole issue, the notion that we're talking about isn't one where, people say one thing and then do something else, And a couple of these comments are saying, what we need to do is be like Christ, show love. And this particular listener asks the question, but how do we get to that place where, we bring our families? Do we just do it and hope that they come along, or, can we encourage them more deliberately? I'm hesitant to read as it was written because I can hear the heart in it. But to that point, if I rephrase it, are we now only looking out for our own soul and salvation, or can we bring our families along? The person shares, it would be ashamed to get to heaven and you look around and your loved ones are not there.
Oh yeah, that would be a shame for many to get to paradise and not see their families, and it would be heartbreaking. However, when we look back to how the Scriptures teach us to teach our families, we go back all the way back to Deuteronomy chapter 6. And the first thing that it tells us in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 6 and 7 is, this must be on your heart. So it does start with us individually, as parents, as people, that we need to not only have it on our tongue, but in our heart, and it needs to be manifested in our actions. So nobody's going to listen to us if we say love, 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 and then all we do is hate, hate, hate.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to be, it starts with us. Then it says in that same scripture to inculcate it or teach it by repetition when you're walking down the road, when you lie down, when you get up. And so there is no letting a family decide for themselves about how they're going to get spirituality. Spirituality needs to be a part of every single day in a family. Our days need to be built around our spirituality. And it's not simply sitting our kids down and teaching them about Christ. It's living that. It's walking down the road. It's working together on a project and teaching them about the Creator, teaching them about how the Creator has made these beautiful things. I mean, Cayman is an unbelievable example of a place that looks like paradise. Well, who made that? Who created that? Who's the architect? Who's the designer? And pointing that out on a daily basis to build faith in our children. All of that is where it gets started. It starts with the person, it extends to the family, and then you become a part of a larger community of like-minded people, and all of a sudden now you're impenetrable because intradependence among God's people is so important. We cannot do this in isolation. It's too hard. We need to be together. We need to worship together. And that's why these conventions are going to be back in person next year, because we need to see each other, to hug each other, and to hear each other's expressions. That's what helps us as individuals even become stronger.
And that's the thing, that's support. We talk about iron sharpens iron, but we don't see how important it is to be in fellowship, to be physical in contact. As you were sharing, many of us may read and be able to reflect on different things, just as a way when we talk about the love languages, for instance. One of those is the idea of quality time, which is fellowship. You're spending that time with someone, and the other being physical touch. That notion that you're interconnected, you're playing a game of dominoes, you're reading the scripture, you're doing Bible study, you're breaking bread. We can see the strong correlation from the instructions in the scriptures, but yet we want to isolate them and compartmentalize and only apply them when it's convenient to us. Is that then that we need to be pruned from within?
We were made to be together.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't made to be in isolation as we have been for so much of the last 2 years. And being together really helps us to understand each other better. Right, when you get your feet under somebody's table and you drink a cup of coffee or tea with them, and that's why we love going door to door as Jehovah's Witnesses, and we'll start again September 1. We get to really understand what their lives are like and who they are, and when whatever color they are, whatever religion they are, whatever beliefs they have, understanding that gives us empathy and helps us to live more peaceful lives, and that's why the Apostle Paul in Hebrews chapter 10 talked about inciting one another in verse 24, but then he said, "Don't forsake your meetings." Don't. So meeting together is absolutely critical to being able to buoy ourselves up and to be strong, because you can even think about a group of people whose arms are interlocked, standing against the forces that may rage against them. They're stronger together than they are apart. And so that's why community is so important, and that's why we're back at our meetings. We're happy to do that because we need each other and we recognize that.
All right. Well, I certainly appreciate it, and these few minutes have gone quickly, but they've been very instructive, and I certainly appreciate you sharing with us. And hopefully, there are those out there who are receptive to not just correction and counsel, but receptive to fellowship and companionship. Any closing thoughts you may want to leave with us, Mr. Hendricks?
Well, first of all, I just appreciate being on your show and being able to talk about these wonderful truths, these principles from the Bible. But also, we welcome those in our Kingdom Halls. We've got 3 congregations on Cayman, 2 English, 1 Spanish. And interestingly, we have a special meeting every year. It's in conjunction with the death of our Lord Jesus Christ. It's usually in April or May, or March. And 1 out of every 90 people on Cayman actually come to that meeting. So people are well familiar in the islands about Jehovah's Witnesses. And we welcome them to come to our meetings. We're back. We welcome them to come see us with our carts, where we have our public witnessing has restarted in West Bay, Georgetown, and Savannah. And we welcome them also to go to our website, jw.org. And if you want anything to know anything about Jehovah's Witnesses or about life or about anything biblical, just type in the search field and you'll find a myriad of answers. So thank you so much for this opportunity. You're
most welcome. And thanks, too, for sharing with us. And I think the more that we can show love, kindness, compassion to each other, the more we can exercise our authority with humility and integrity, the better, safer, stronger, stable, and more loving the world would be. So thank you very much, sir.
You're very, very welcome.
All right. With that, we'll pick up our headline news. Come back, it'll be open line. Can't promise you I'll sing, but I'll do my best to shine. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Follow Radio Cayman on Twitter. All the latest information, breaking news, community events, and more. Follow us at twitter.com/Radio Cayman.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. On Tuesday, August 9th, as a result of police inquiries, RCIPS officers from the Firearms Response Unit, Criminal Investigations Department, and Crime Scene Investigation Unit conducted a search of an area of public land off Shamrock Road in the Spots area. During the search, officers recovered a Remington shotgun and 3 cartridge cases, which have since been confirmed as stolen during a burglary in Northside last month. No arrests have been made, however, inquiries continue to identify the person or persons involved. In international news, more than 1,000 firefighters are battling a monster wildfire in southwestern France that has already destroyed nearly 17,300 acres of forests, officials say. The raging blaze near the city of Bordeaux has gutted a number of homes and forced 10,000 residents to flee. Strong winds and high temperatures are hampering the firefighting operation. A roller coaster crash at Legoland's theme park in Germany has hurt at least 34 people, 2 of whom have severe injuries. According to German media, the accident happened after 2 roller coaster trains collided with each other. The incident took place on the Fire Dragon ride at the leisure resort. 3 helicopters were deployed to the scene, and it is currently not clear what caused the accident. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
I've got some beautiful clothes. I know just where they go. Puritan Cleaners.
Puritan Cleaners, now using the most popular and eco-friendly cleaning solvents. 2 convenient locations to serve you: Savannah Countryside and Eastern Avenue, Georgetown. Drive-through, rain or shine, free pickup and delivery services available. Call Puritan Cleaners, 949-7104. Also ask about our in-house discounts. Puritan Cleaners, you feel good when you look good.
Puritan Cleaners, 949-7104. That's 949-7104.
Get the drive with Lucasade Energy. Buy Lucozade and enter for a chance to win the grand prize of a Toyota Hilux. Plus, win up to 500,000 instant prizes, including Fitbit watches, GoPros, earbuds, Amazon gift cards, and free Lucozade. To enter, buy one of the Lucozade Energy promo bottles and look under the cap for your code. Enter it online or send it via WhatsApp. See press and social media for details. Buy, win, and get the drive with Lucozade Energy today. Lucozade, taste the energy.
Beyond Basics Medical, leaders in laser and skincare of the Cayman Islands, providing advanced technology in skin, body, and hair, offering laser hair removal, vaginal tightening, threading, laser wrinkle reduction, hair loss restoration, hydrofacials, body and face slimming, vein therapy, laser tone correction, microneedling, high-frequency dermaplaning, medical peels, chirotherapy, skin tag wart removal, and laser scar revision. Long-term and significant transformations and results for multiple concerns starts with contacting Beyond Basics Medical. Call us at 916-SKIN. Visit us on the 3rd floor of the Tomlinson Building above Tomlinson Furniture, or follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Beyond Basics Laser.
But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Thank you very much for joining us as we welcome you back to our discussion. This open line, 949-8037, 949-8037. Toll free with the compliments of Flo at 1-800-534-8255. WhatsApp is still available to you if you wish to use that as well. You can record a voice note. You can send it across whether it's text to speech or otherwise, and we will read it for you if that's your choice. That's 925-3261. WhatsApp or call. It is, talk today. So we want to hear from you. A number of things that we want to share. And, I'll speak initially to last evening, and I'll come back to it again. It was a wonderful evening over the National Gallery. If she doesn't mind me saying, sort of Miss Narsari Sukush-Shalette sort of laid and inspired all the other poets, and the readings were fantastic. I know some of us may have a perception of poetry. If you missed last evening, to my humble estimation, you missed a phenomenal evening of fellowship. The poetry, was fantastic. The poems that were written and the spoken word that was shared was amazing. It resonated in many ways. Not just that they were able to speak and convey an imagery that we could see very vividly, whether it's the homes as described in East End, whether it's the streets in Georgetown, or whether it's the need to preserve our environment, or whether it's the call to look within, respect and reflect on our people, our history, our heritage, our culture. It was amazing. But it was also the voices that sounded familiar, using language and words that perhaps are often forgotten. It was an incredible evening. The gallery itself is a magnificent setting, but last evening was spectacular. For some of us, it was probably what may have felt like sacrifice. Got a lot more work to do. I need to get to this place. I got that thing that is pressing. And if we were in that space and we went there, I'm sure we came away renewed, re-energized, and reminded of how important it is to be not only resourceful but respectful, and to share with our community, that which we all have an abundance of, love. So all of the poets, and if Miss Nasaria, she says, I was a teacher, not Miss Nasaria. Miss Nasaria doesn't mind, public thanks, and to all of the young poets, all of the other poets, for sharing. It was truly a phenomenal evening. I'm glad that I was able to attend, make time. We have time, we just don't make time. And if you missed it, maybe somebody has a video, maybe they can give you a play-by-play. But it was a great opportunity. We'll come back to it. We also want to share a couple of comments following our discussion on Tuesday, I think it was, where we were talking about a number of things with our wonderful guest. And we made reference to trial of Cayman. And first and foremost, I think one of the sentiments that were expressed to us, they thought it was timely. They thought that it wasn't to do with the people, but now we have this thing in place, and well, is it still necessary? Not to question whether it was or wasn't. How do we move forward? And I'll share some of the other things, but perhaps this information that we'll share with you was sent to the political leadership and even the elected local political leadership, as well as the UK political leadership, including the Premier, the Minister for Health, and the like. In reference to trial of Cayman, said this needs to stop. Said it is an egregious abuse of my constitutional rights as a citizen of the Cayman Islands to be compelled and be subjected, forced and coerced to get travel authorization when returning to my country of birth, being a holder of Caymanian passport and a British passport. There is no law, in the brackets constitutional law, that gives the government any rights to deny me entry into my country of birth. All pre-testing requirements and all requirements of vaccine status was removed in July of 2022. Therefore, there is no justification for Travel Cayman to require a Caymanian to get travel authorization to return to their country of birth. Mr. Governor and Mr. Premier, please remove this requirement. We had similar sentiments expressed by a number of listeners prior to the show the other day, and certainly since. And with respect to all of them, it's that one that we've read that I think sort of not just is a good summation, but puts it very succinctly, eloquently, and certainly in a way that may cause us to reflect on it. Now, you can weigh in and share your thoughts, and I can share that there are many of us who still have a bit of trepidation, who perhaps convinced one way or the other, who feel that sense of fear and anxiety. And I don't think there's anybody who wants to put anyone, whether it's the closest person that they love, their grandmother or the like, in any uneasy position, any exposure to potential risk. But as the message that we just read shares, if we remove a lot of the things, then how do we justify the continued existence? But what about denying a citizen entry into the country of birth with valid travel documents? Now, we thought passports were more than just that, but perhaps we're understanding that they're not. Weigh in and share your thoughts with us if you so choose. 949-8837, toll free with the compliments of Flo at 1-800-534-8255, or you can WhatsApp 925-3261. Then the other thing is, a number of you have said, wow, can't wait for that Christmas breeze, because have you seen what electric bills are like? Many have been very complimentary that the government is trying to do something. They're offering up a subsidy of maybe it's 6 cents or so. You can correct me on the math, per kilowatt hour. It's up to 2,000, or less, kilowatt hours, and only for residential customers. Men have commended the utility provider for trying to figure out, how do we tell you and help you to be more conscious with your consumption. But there isn't, still the obvious impact that many of us have seen, maybe as little as $100 increase in our electric bill, and some may have seen it, hundreds of dollars. Some the electric bill may be $200, $300, $400, $500. Maybe there are some that are $1,000 or more. Now, if that is the case, what are we doing and how do we do it? Well, what is your thought, and what do you think can be done? Or is it like everything else, you just what it is that we were told as children, like it or lump it, Was that a game that we say? Well, your perspective. 8949-8837. Toll free with the compliments of Flo at 1-800-534-8255, or WhatsApp 925-3261. And then there are other things that are happening in our communities that some of us recognize that the discussions are taking place in other platforms, but perhaps not as one younger fellow said to me just earlier. He says he's getting back, getting ready to go back to university. I'm very glad for his sponsorship, his scholarship. He's not sure to what extent, like his other classmates, that they'll have the employment prospects that he seems to have been able to get. And talking to him, I said, well, what put you in that position? And he said straight up, good fortune. He recognized that for many, they may, as an example, he says, he has a cousin who went through the law school here, even having had another degree from other studies, decided to pick up law, or went through the law school, struggled to find a firm that would provide the requisite articles, gets called to the bar, but isn't able to get employment in any of the firms. And as he was saying, but how does that make sense? We have a need for lawyers. We have a lot of lawyers on work permits who have similar or perhaps less academic credentials and post-qualifying experience, and yet this newly minted lawyer can't get employment. Or if it's offered employment, well, we can't offer you a job as a lawyer, but we can offer you a job as a messenger. Now, messengers are important and getting the things, but what he was trying to share wasn't disparaging. That was how the presentation was made to the applicant. Now, is that to discourage and provide a disincentive to anyone who wants to pursue higher education? Well, again, your thoughts. 949-837, 1-800-534-8255, or WhatsApp 925-3261. But the young fellow also shared that it isn't just law, it isn't just accounting, it's in almost every facet of employment. He says he has a friend who has a family member, somewhat distant cousin, who's in education, and seemingly also experiences similar sort of hurdles to navigate. Now, this is a young fellow. His wisdom seems to be, as I think he said, his grandmother once told him, from a young boy, he has an old soul. And so his wisdom sort of beyond his years. But he shared, if we're providing this level, of challenge to our young people, then how many of them you think, he says, would go and continue studying and trying to, not just get the academic education, but come back and want to apply it? Maybe they'll leave our shores. Now, he asked the question, is that a sinister motive, that we will push more and more of the intelligent, ambitious, young, qualified Caymanians away, literally, physically away? And when he shared that, he referenced that we need to navigate them. He's not saying that just because you have a certain level of education or even a certain level of experience that you're now qualified to do all the jobs or all the top jobs. But the people that at those jobs had to start somewhere. And if you have 10 years experience, well, you first have had, as he said, 1 month experience, and over time getting it. But 10 years of bad experience, maybe still 10 years of experience, but it doesn't mean it's of value. And as I listen to him, I certainly wish him and many of our students as they return, whether it's into high school or into another school up from where they were, or just a grade up from the last one, or they're going overseas. Not just a wonderful, successful school year, but a safe one as well. But here's a student who is very pensive, obviously very cognizant, and is questioning why do this now. If we have other students who are not as motivated, who are not being encouraged, who are not as resourced, who don't have that level of support, if students like him question it, what's happening to the other students? Well, certainly want to weigh in on that if you so choose. 949-837, 1-800-534-8255, or WhatsApp 925-3261. Then the other thing that we want to talk to you about is what many of you have shared, and that's in relation to the census. There are probably 3 or 4 of our avid listeners for whom I'm very grateful. They've been sending little snippets of the census data as they go through it. If you are inclined, whether you want to get a physical, hard, copy with the pages printed in color, well, do so. If you want to keep it electronic because that's how you prefer to reference it, you're conscious of the paper usage, that's fine as well. But go to eso.gov.ky and have a look at the census data. One individual said, if you take the Cayman Islands sort of residence by country of birth graphic, and it takes us through a number of different countries. Now, I don't have it in front of me, so I don't want to make the inaccurate comment. But one of the comments from one of the individuals said, we're always talking about 100 plus nationalities, and presumably, if I didn't recall it incorrectly, he said this seems like, well, we're now down to less than 100. I should have it in front of me, but if anyone out there can quickly clarify, do we know the number of different nationalities in our country? Just for personal edification would be helpful. We can always reflect and figure it out ourselves, but that would be good to know now. So if you know, we live in a world of instant gratification. Information is readily available at our fingertips, and many of us have it. So if you do, share that with us so that we'll know, hey, it's 90. No, it's 130. We want to know for sure. We want to know now. 8949-8037, 1-800-534-8255, or you can WhatsApp it at 925-3261. But as I'm looking at the graphic, and this individual shared it across with us and saying that we have many countries. And when we look at it, are we considering not just the count? Is it 1,000 of this nationality? Is it 18,000 of this nationality? Is it only 200? But what are we looking also at the increase comparatively? So one nationality may have increased, from 5 to 500. It's still a small number, but as a percentage increase, what does that mean? And is there a particular impact with such a significant statistical increase? And then what about others? As we look at it, what does the data share? If people come from a particular place, is it mostly the men or the women? What are the ages? What sort of mindset, what sort of cultural ethos that they may have as they emigrate to a Cayman? Are they coming to integrate? Are they being assimilated? Are they acclimating? And for some, are they bringing their own sort of practices and norm? And again, to answer the question for one of our listeners asking for the website for the census, it's www.eso, that's the Economics and Statistics Office, eso.gov.ky. So eso.gov.ky. I think you'll find the census data on that website. So what is your thought on all of that? And you may be like some of us, well, I'll leave that to those for whom that's their job and area of responsibility. Or we may joke and jest and say, well, that's above our pay grade. But are we impacted by the census? We know the governments, like businesses, will use the data to make informed decisions, hopefully to be able to proactively sometimes or recognize, wow, this is an area that needs addressing, it's been ignored. How do we do that? And if we look at the census data, I'm trying to pull this graphic up, and this one just shows that we've got just over 24,000, according to this graphic, of people who in the Cayman Islands that are screens work well. There we go. Pull it back up. So it's the residents by the country of birth. So we've got 24,375 people in the Cayman Islands that were born in the Cayman Islands, and people from Jamaica that live in the Cayman that were born in Jamaica equates to 17,055. And then from the Philippines, 3,807. And then from the UK, 3,618. From the US, 3,597. Honduras, 2,883. For the Canadians, it's 2,261. India, 1,437. And friends and family from Cuba, 1,107. Nicaragua, 717. And then the South African population, 713. And then it goes, all the way down, just this aspect that I'm looking at, those from Bahamas, just over 100. Now, why, perhaps this graphic is important is that we see the different nationalities. We see the percentage of people who are in Cayman and as residents and where their country of birth. Now, when we look at the Caymanian population, someone was asking, well, I wonder if we know from that, the population of Caymanians and those who have status and increases, and to what extent, if any, does that mean anything? Well, this is where the comparative analysis will not only show the rises in the numbers of those, but what potentially could be some of the needs that the government will have to respond to. 949-8037, toll free at 1-800-534-8255. WhatsApp if you wish, 925-3261. And let's go to the phones. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon to you, Sterling there.
And to you, sir. Blessed good afternoon.
Our passports say that this passport is the property of the Crown, remains the property of the Crown at all times.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it says.
Yes,
you
sir.
Read it, and it's the same as all British, born British citizens say their passports. I've seen several say the property of the Crown. So we are Her Majesty's citizens. We are Her Majesty's citizens. Does the census say how many generational Caymanians? We know what I mean when I say that. I don't have to explain that. Generational Caymanians that are there amongst that number. A person can be born here yesterday and can be registered as a Caymanian.
Mm-hmm.
But we're talking about generational, that has a grandparent born here.
Mm-hmm.
That's what would be termed a generational Caymanian. Can go back. There are quite a few of us, can go back to great and great grandparents. And so the genealogy coming down the line from, and I often wonder why our voters registration card and we don't have identification cards showing these things. It's so simple. It could simply say GC, Generational Caymanian, Indigenous, whichever way you want to put it, because there is a difference. Every country has this identification and this separation. They do it. So no one needs to tell me this. They do it. It can be done here, which is so simple for place of 71, 75, 80,000, whatever it is we're at, because we have really no idea of how many people we have.
Mm-hmm.
I say this without any fear of, having to explain what I say, because we don't have a system of direct income tax. So we don't really have that control or regulation on even the working population to say this is how many people made up income tax return and how many business, so forth. So it makes a big difference when we have these things in place and so forth. But we can easily find out how many of the people on that census are generational Caymanians. And as I've long advocated, we need to have national identification cards identifying people. People should have those things. It should be mandatory. We have mandatory health insurance, which we see is in chaos right now, and mandatory pension also in chaos. We know that. But we don't have these, and it's so simple to put it in place. A national identification card, and you must have it. When I was living in Canada, way over 50 years ago, you had to be able to identify yourself. You had to have some identification on you that shows who you are. Who you are. There are people walking around that can't tell you. They have nothing on them to identify themselves. And we know they're not Caymanians and so forth. And to say this, I will end with this. The predominant culture here in Cayman is not Caymanian.
Okay.
Let us face that fact. It's not. And you know what it is. You know what culture that is. It is the Jamaican culture. You hear Jamaican music everywhere you go, pounding day and night. It's non-stop. And every event, even government events, you hear Jamaican music being played, not Caymanian music. I say this without any fear of having to retract what I'm saying.
Right.
I won't go any further. But therefore, we cannot preserve our culture amongst 140 different cultures the way we're trying to do it. It can't work. We saw what the Americans did with preserving their indigenous people for many, many years. They gave reservations that are their own, hundreds of thousands of acres of land where they can carry on their traditions as they always did. There are lakes, rivers in the United States where this is from 100 years or so, where only those Indians can fish for the salmon, rich with salmon. Only they can, and they're given special tax privileges. We all know this. Anyone who has ever lived in the United States knows this. They're given special privileges.
Right.
So, of course, we often talk about them being, they have these special privileges. That's the way the United States sets it out and makes this sort of retribution to them. And they're given special privileges. That, my friend, is the only way we preserve our heritage. Have special places set aside in each district. I've said it before. Several acres can be taken from the National Trust thing, which is supposed to preserve endangered species, the most endangered species.
Right. So, if I can ask you, are we suggesting then that we create, as we use in relation to the U.S., a reservation and put the Caymanians there like we do the big iguana, perhaps the Hecates, the parrot? Is that what we should do?
You're not putting them. Those who elect to go. If you have a special place provided, say 25 acres, 30 acres in each district, that is for generational Cayman. Every day we hear it on the radio. We hear people talking and saying we have to preserve our culture, and they're trying to. That's the only way. How can you preserve it if you're trying to preserve it amongst 130 different cultures? You have that set aside. Only the generational things, only what was done, the practices and everything. It can be done if we have the courage to do it. 30 acres in each district. It can be more if they want, because we're preserving bushes, we're preserving insects, we're preserving fish, we're preserving all sorts of animals and lizards and iguanas and stuff. And why can't we have the preservation for the most valuable endangered species, the generational Caymanian. So have it set aside. Those who want to, that it would be their special privileges, as I said, like the Americans do with the Indians, the Sioux, the Cherokee, the Mississauga tribe, the many other tribes there are, and they're given special privileges and special tax benefits. I know what I'm saying,
yes,
and everybody who has ever lived in the United States know what I'm saying is true. And so forth. Why can't we do the same here? You go out there and you catch a turtle, you throw in jail. That's what we did. That's what built this country. And you get some works, some go for fishing for your groupers, and so forth. Somebody came here and told us you can't do that no more. You can't do that no more. These things like that. And we just said, well, yes, I guess we better follow them. They have more sense than us. So we better follow what they're doing. We back ourselves into a corner.
Yep.
Have a wonderful day.
And you too, sir.
I said maybe people will disagree with me, but I stand by that.
Wow.
We set aside these places in each district and set aside to preserve our culture. Thank you, sir.
You're most welcome, sir. And after the break, I certainly want to revisit that and invite you to weigh in on this topic, the reservation idea. That's just my terminology. And he referenced the dominant culture. Hey, let's get into that after the break. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointments.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
For the record.
For information that matters to you, the people. Hear from the government, the opposition, independents, and other experts on issues and solutions that affect you.
For the record.
Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, tune into 89.9 and 93.9 FM for Cayman's Straight Talk Morning Show. For the record.
I invite you to join me for the record. You are invited to be a part of this interesting and informative show. Embrace the opportunity to dialogue with your legislators, policymakers, and those charged with policy implementation.
For the record.
Brought to you by
Coca-Cola. Available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors.
Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for sharing with us. And it is open line. The phone lines are available to you. We have a caller. Let's go straight to it. Welcome. Good afternoon. Thanks for calling. Hello. Good afternoon. All right, we'll get that 1-800-534-8255 or 929. Nah, that's a kid. 9498-37. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling. Yeah, hello. All right. 1-800-534-8255. Sometimes, we love technology, and this is why I think sometimes, many of us prefer to have that, digital copy, because we're trying to be, perhaps environmentally conscious. We're trying to ensure that we don't have the weight of the papers in our hands. But boy, that hard copy always works good. Hey, welcome. Good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon, Captain.
Hey, General, how are you today, sir?
Good to see you. Look like you're having some sort of difficulties, Mitch, on my radio.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. Yeah, and that's very appreciative.
Yeah, but
All
I
right.
guess you probably got some tough technical difficulties, something. But Bill Dong is off for a while since you can hear me now.
Yes, sir, I can. Thank you for taking time to call.
Thank you. Yeah, I too supporting what the last caller, Mr. Holston, I think, was referring to indigenous Caymanians and our culture as well.
Mm-hmm.
But, we are living in extraordinary times, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And may I add on to what he said?
Mm-hmm.
This is where the government of the day and others, from my point of view, my opinion, they are more than reluctant to bring or even talk about district councils.
Mm-hmm.
This is where the district councils are so important into this island to decide where we're going. What's wrong? What are they so afraid of? It will not be forever before they have to realize a district council is a must.
But to your knowledge, do we need to wait for the politicians to put in place the district council? Can we as voters in the particular district do that?
Well, now you're hitting the key notes.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't feel like doing it, I think they're going to be, in the very near future, running up against some stiff resistance, because this island is not owned and should be run by the elected members.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? We see so many things that is open to the world, and we are outnumbered. What I see in this island, Dwayne,
Mm-hmm.
we are outnumbered by foreign elements. They have no respect, no regard for the Cayman Island culture. And if we don't put something in place, it should have been like yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not put in place shortly, then there'll be no need. Like I said about the 18 months to start a district council. You know what happened to Caymanians? We do not have the guts to look those people in the face and say, what you're doing is not right. Do you have any class? Do you have any culture? Where do you think you're going? Because your salary is guaranteed. What about the generation that's coming ahead? What about the generation that's here now?
Mm-hmm.
That we have absolutely no say in what goes on this island.
So what do we do?
Long, they're gonna what are we gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
We are going to bring it to the public in short order, meetings to decide and discuss about district councils. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's into our constitution, and it's overdue time before Caymanians should have a say in what's going on here. The time is elapsed. What they're thinking about, all I can see is construction going up, and everything is absolutely, practically out of control. Where are we going with this little island?
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me that when I was a boy, we used to make kites. We used to make sometimes line kites, 12 thread line, 6 thread line, and some made even out of the thread that you sew your clothes with, cotton thread.
Mm-hmm.
And we would make that kite would go what? Maybe a couple of miles in the air, and when you get a big puff of rain, a wind, it would bust the line, and all you can see your poor kite going out into space. Well, if you look at Cayman Island, I think that's probably where we're heading. We're heading into no man's land. And it's time to tell these guys in charge that it's not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
It's more to talk about than gay rights and carnival time going on for 3 months. Is that the most important thing that we can find to talk about or do in this island?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the most important thing to have a press conference about?
Mm-hmm.
Come on. What's wrong with Caymanians? What I can't stand with my people, they do not have a mouth to talk. They will get on that tree or call by phone. That is not good enough. The days for that is over. Tell them how it goes, that this is not going to stand and we're not going to take it. It is a certain shame. Man, up in my area now, you see these 3, 4, 5-story buildings going up. Look at the little streets that you got. When you get this place here overcrowded with a population and no really roads to drive, what's going to happen? Are they not counting the cost? What they're looking at about the present dollars that we're getting? The day is coming when the construction is going to get slow and you're going to be overburdened with a population of not indigenous Caymanians, maybe you can call them paper Caymanians, that will be looking for handouts. Where the money is going to come from? We can only sustain a certain amount of people in this island that is comfortable. Your quality of life is going to be eroded. You will have nothing but disgruntled Caymanians against the foreign element. And some of them, this is heaven. This is heaven that they have seen, that they can come here in such a beautiful, peaceful environment with people, so much, for want of a better word, so many innocent people that really doesn't trouble anybody. But a lot of those people are not coming here and seeing that into us. They come in here because they got dollars and think that they is their way or the highway. We certainly need to really look into this in a real serious way and bring up something. So tell any of them that they want to challenge me my conversation, they want to debate. I'm here waiting to debate any of them.
Right.
And tell me if any reason why that they don't want to debate me. Tell me.
Well, you say your piece and you stand your ground, right?
Oh my God, tell me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I wish I had even 50 like me, then you would see something more, but I think I can find 50.
Keep looking, man. I'm sure they're there.
Yeah. Anyhow, my friend.
You too. Blessings,
Thank you
sir.
so much for your few minutes on the talk show, and you have yourself a pleasant afternoon.
Amen. Same to you. Same.
you.
All right. We'll quickly pause and take that break. Join our callers after. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
You see how hard it's raining?
Yeah, and I don't have time to fight traffic and get my lunch from Subway. I have so much work to do.
Why don't you order Subway by using the Let's Eat or Bento app? Save time, stay dry, and get your sandwich fast.
I never thought of that. Great idea. I'm going to order now.
Order me a veggie pizza while you're at it.
And a cookie platter for the office.
Too busy at work or home? Is the rainy weather stopping you from dining out? Order your favorite Subway sandwich, wrap, or pizza through the Let's Eat or Bento app with fast and reliable delivery. Subway, eat fresh.
Busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
Want more sports? Get the best seats in the house with Logic. Enjoy exhilarating, nail-biting sports content with C Sports, a new addition to Logic's Premier Sports Pack for $25 a month. Sign up for Logic Premier Sports Pack and catch all the Premier League, NFL, and UEFA Nations League games. Watch all the action on Logic TV channels 531, 2, and 3, and wireless TV 207, 8, and 9. Call 754-555 or visit logic.ky. Logic, your life connected.
You know the easiest way to get free food? No, not go steal your neighbor's mango, but plant a tree. Yeah, for real. More trees, more food, less grocery bills. to celebrate Her Majesty Queen Platinum Jubilee? Come plant a tree for the Jubilee. Yeah, we need you. Yes, you. Make sure you leave your green mark on the Cayman Islands. Perhaps a mango tree, a legitimate tree, even a little bit of coconut or cabbage. Is it time we all started eating off the land again? Register your tree and leave your green print at www.gov.ky/National Tree Planting. Or make sure you follow them on Facebook and Instagram. Plant a tree for the Jubilee. Proudly brought to you by the Cayman Islands Government, Ministry for Sustainability and Climate Resiliency. Let's green Cayman now.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Evans.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And thanks for sharing with us. 949-837, 1-800-534-8255. If you're calling, hey, hope you get through. If you're online and you need to do something else, well, when you have time again, you shut us back and we will take your calls because we want to hear your voice as well. 949-837, 949-8037. Or flow toll-free line at 1-800-534-8255. And then there's the WhatsApp. That's what we use, 925-3261, and share your thoughts with us. But the last callers that were sharing their presentations well, let's ask the question sparked by the gentleman who referenced, we preserve a lot. Well, what are we doing to preserve, protect, promote, and ensure that we look at what is uniquely Caymanian? And is it that we have, my words, he didn't use it, but drawing from what we see in the U.S., with their indigenous people, a reservation, not just lands where you can go and see the people and the practices, but perhaps certain provisions, certain privileges that accrue to them, as we see in the U.S. and Canada and other places. Canada escapes many times the international sort of licks that the U.S. will get relative to its use, abuse, and treatment of its indigenous people. But as the first people, what happens in other parts of the world? Well, some would share that history, will be kind to them because they're going to write the script. Maybe that's why we look at Winston Churchill the way we do. Not as the misogynist drunk that he probably was, right? 8949-8037, 1-800-534-8255, or WhatsApp, 925-3261. And then what the caller's point, where if you look at not just what the census data may indicate, but what seems to be the familiar practice, and he referred to dominant culture. Well, what does that mean? Is it a merger and meddling? Is it a sort of replacing and relegating? And then the unique Caymanian identity is not just integrated, but it's consumed. It is decimated, whether that's deliberate by design or it's just by default. And how do we respond? Is it acceptance and acquiescence in a sense, and going quietly into that good night, or is it an emotive pushback that leads to a greater discord and division, and that sort of disharmony that naturally occurs when people find that their backs against the wall? That could lead to greater social unrest and greater harm to any community. Thankfully, it's not something that we advocate nor exhibit nor something that we've experienced, but are we oblivious to perhaps that may be something that is there? If it is it being encouraged, nurtured, stirred, the fire as it is being stoked, because those that would benefit would see the need to do so? Well, let's rise above that and let's draw together, recognizing and appreciating that a house divided cannot stand, that we're stronger together, that if we unify, that we come together and appreciate that this is the land in which we live, irrespective of our birth. If this is home, then we want it to be the best place, the safest place where each and every one, understands the importance of their own individual value, that they do, we all, individual and collectively, do our very best to make the place better. Doesn't mean we're going to benefit equally. Doesn't mean that we'll seem to be valued and appreciated even by those closest to us. It doesn't mean sometimes that despite how hard we try, we'll ever get the opportunity. The success and the reward may elude us. But if it's a safe place where you go to the beach and you can sit quietly and watch the sunset, whether you see the green flash or not, whether you're up early because the moon is coming up, or whether you're working in your yard enjoying the cool breeze, you don't have to be worried about threatened, kidnapped, harassed, or anything. That should not be naive. That should not even be an unfounded expectation. That should be the norm. But it also should be that when you're moving about your community, that you do so, mindful of your impact on the community. You're riding, you're walking, you're driving. Are you doing so responsibly and respectfully? The trash that is in your car and your yard, are you containing it and disposing of it properly? The dog that's on, your care, is it leashed and muzzled properly? Are you mindful of how the trees in your yard may be overgrown and impacting the boundary wall or the neighbors' gutters or what have you? Now, if you think that we need laws to legislate how we live, well, they can't dictate our morality and our ethics. But perhaps we need to have a shared ethos as to that community that we want. It would sound, for some, well, listen, this is what we have. And for others, man, which dreamland are you in? Well, if we allow the little things that are, being ignored or create angst for us, well, those little things become compounded and they become big things. Some of us, would have read and heard about the broken windows concept. Well, it's not just something that actually can be indicative of other things to come if we ignore the small things. And there's a scripture that talks about, if you can't take care of the small things, how can I trust you with the big things? Well, that's like with everything else. We need to do all we can with what we have to the benefit of all, not at the expense of others, so that we individually can succeed and rise. Well, share with us what you think. 949-837, 1-800-534-8255. WhatsApp, 925-3261. Go back to the initial discussion. Mr. Hendricks talked about the word minister and its Greek origin. And is it that we have over time perhaps forgotten what words mean, understood their connotation? Maybe we do understand it, but we like to have it portrayed in a way because it's helpful to us. But if you are there to be of service, it doesn't mean that you're a servant or that there's an attitude of servitude. It means that you're there to offer greater value to others. And if we all are of genuine loving service, we give our all to all, then truly no one goes without. I think the best example for me is if we have a family corporate get together and it's a potluck and you bring a dish. There's an element of coordination and collaboration, and at the table there's a lot of food and everybody participates. Now some will probably spend more money and bring in certain things or more time in preparing certain things. If your job is to bring the ice and the paper plates, or you assign yourself, I'll do the turtle or the conch, well, it's going to probably take you a little bit more effort. Now, do you pay for that yourself? Is that a cost shared by others? Is it subsidized in some way? But still, it's your time. Maybe you are, the one who's going to pick it up after it's being prepared, versus the one who will say, okay, when I get there, I'll have to put out the chairs. We all can play a role, and each person doing something would mean that one person doesn't have to do everything. It's very much like that in life, isn't it? We all give our all. 8949-8037, 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. We're going to go into the news break shortly. And to the callers who initially called, say the call back, go right ahead and call and share your thoughts, because without your voice being heard, then there'll be perhaps one comment, and that may not necessarily resonate with somebody else. But after the break, let's ask ourselves a question. The idea of district councils and our constitution and our political sort of platform and the way we go about electing, are there any considerations that we need to look at? Are there things that we need to revisit, things that we need to amend, things that we need to implement? Do we need to wait for the elected to do it or to the appointed? Or do we now need to draw alongside and say, hey, just like a neighborhood cleanup, we can have the wonderful good folks over at the Department of, Environmental Health come out and, do the cleanup. Or we as neighbors can say, can we do something about it? Well, perhaps we can. All right, after this break, please join us. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. Deputy Premier and Minister for Finance and Economic Development, Honourable Chris Saunders, presented the Cayman Islands government's unaudited financial report at the end of the second quarter of 2022 to Cabinet on Tuesday, August 9th. For the January 1st to June 30th, 2022 period, central government recorded a surplus of $159.0 million. The surplus was also $3.1 million higher than the surplus for the same period last year. At the end of the first 6 months of 2022, the entire public sector had a surplus of $145.6 million. The EPS surplus was also $3.1 million higher than the EPS surplus for the same period in 2021. In international news, satellite images appear to show major damage and a number of destroyed Russian warplanes at a Crimea airbase following explosions there this week. The base in the west of Russian-ruled Crimea was rocked by a string of blasts on Tuesday, killing one person. The base's runways appear intact, but at least 8 aircrafts seem damaged or destroyed, with several craters visible. Ukraine has not claimed responsibility, but this new evidence suggests the possibility of a targeted attack. Disney will launch a new ad-supported streaming service in the U.S. in December as it overtakes Netflix in the race for paid subscribers. The firm reported 221.1 million subscribers across its 3 streaming platforms at the start of July. That put it just ahead of Netflix, which has been losing customers. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255, or WhatsApp 925-3261, as we invite you to share your thoughts with us. It is open line. A couple of comments on our WhatsApp platform by a few listeners who have shared that when it comes to Cayman, it may be, and I'm going to paraphrase some of this, like it is in other places where we value, everything else except our own. Take the many reports that our commission will take it, but we do nothing with it. But we seem to look to the outside influence, the outside consultant expertise, and discard or diminish the input provided by those of us who are here. Someone read, he who feels it, knows it. And saying that, the person shared that if you live, work in Cayman, you probably got a better insight. Now, the caveat said, well, look at what's the motivation, what's that driving thing behind why the person is advocating for this or suggesting something else. And suggest that maybe it's time for us as a people to take stock and ask ourselves, what is it that we want from Cayman? This individual shared that, for too long we would ask the question, well, for whom are we developing? And increasingly, we just allow the politicians to use that in a way that is fitting at the time. And this one writes that it is us, the people that need to tell the government how we want to move forward, to express our concerns about population growth. But we need, to know the want in the first place. And as that person shares the thought, we as the people who live here need to have that sense of, well, what is it that we want? Then we need to share that so that those in the position of power and authority take that on board and make that their policy priorities. I appreciate the sentiments expressed by many of our listeners, some of whom are challenged because of their working environment. They can't focus as much as they want to call in, and that's appreciative. But if they send their thoughts in this vein, we'll do our best to try to share with our listeners. But it's always preferable to hear from you directly. That way, your voice is the one that is being echoed and gives you not just a greater sense of authority and ownership, but it validates your contributions. And we want to facilitate that as we do. This other message, as I pull it back up, was speaking to the whole issue of the pace of development. And one aspect of it that I really would have liked to read, if I can. But the person says, we look at the pace of development, but we're only thinking about the physical landscape. The references, the buildings on the waterfront that were just recently knocked down, like many other buildings in the past. We knocked down the old to make place for the new. We knocked down a 3-story condo and put up a 10-story one. That's the physical development. But what about the impact on the environment? Well, we complain about that. But what about the impact on the people? This person says, as I go through the census data and see not only the numbers that are live and work here, where they're from, but what does that mean for the mix and meddling of the people? I won't, because I don't think I have all the information to hand, but I think the person has suggested that if we in Cayman have people from different parts of the world who live and work here, that historically, as sort of, I use the word neighbors, neighboring countries, they may not get along. There may be, a bit of disquiet, my word. How are they living here? Are they getting along in Cayman? And if they are, well, that's a good thing. It shows that take the people out of the environment in, bring them here, and maybe it's as person says, it may be the good food, it may be the taste of the salt here that makes these people mellow and get along. But maybe they're not getting along. It's just that, for what it's worth, now it's not that many, so they don't feel the need to continue that, the caller's words, the bickering. But the quick exchange back and forth with this particular listener is instructive from the perspective as the listener is sharing. We have all these people from everywhere, and if we're living, working in harmony and getting along here, well, that's a good example. It's a way to show that you can live in peace, that you can put aside your differences. In response to a question I posed, and the individual responded to share, look at our children. You watch very young children at play, and more often than not, their differences isn't anything to do with who they are, what colors, what religion, how much money. That only comes into play when they learn that from us as the adults. But the listener quickly pointed out that are we at risk increasingly in our schools, that we're pointing at certain schools and we're seeing that there isn't this reflection of the community. It's almost, one homogeneous community within some schools. Now, if that translates into 5-year-olds now become 50-year-olds, what do we have in our society? The person cautions that it doesn't take long for what we see as children to become the norm decades down the road as adults. And it gives examples in the region and other places where the country is divided economically and politically. And one government gets in, and if it enjoys a majority, it may deliberately undo things of the previous government, or it may put forward programs at the expense of the previous government's supporters. And in bold capital letters, so that is not something we want, but it is not something that we should ignore is not play in this country. And the writer suggests that maybe a few of our politicians, including some named incumbents, seem to be, advocating along the lines that they, according to this writer's view, will remain in office if they are able to pander to certain voter anxieties, as it were. Well, an interesting thought. Share yours with us. 949-8037. Toll free to compliments of Flow at 1-800-534-8255. Or you can WhatsApp 925-3261. Now, tomorrow, Ms. Katina Anglin will be our guest. We're hoping to have the Honorable Health Minister on just prior to share about an event coming up over the weekend relative to, we don't want to steal her thunder, but hopefully she'll be able to join us. And this is where many of our leadership, political, elected, otherwise, continue to reach out to their communities to assist. We see the discussion yesterday with the good folks from the Family Resource Center about the back to school sort of approach. And many of us need help, not just financially, but how do we navigate this chapter, whether it's the first time for us, or whether it's maybe the last year for the last child, and then on to other things. Well, glad that people draw alongside. So in tomorrow's discussion, I'll be part of it. But also, as we were sharing, Ms. Katina Anglin will come on, and there is an event at the Lions Center at the end of the month on the 27th of August, 7 p.m., where she'll share how to overcome and acquire your power over your own life. And looking forward to our discussion. Well, that's on the 27th, at the Lions Center. Hey, always anxious to learn more, to be able to be positioned to get more out of life, not just the financial more, but the emotional, spiritual more. 8949-8037, 1-800-534-8255, or WhatsApp 925-3261. You can share your thoughts with us, as it's important to hear each and every one of your comments. So at the end of the day, we know that the community is actively engaged and involved. Many of you have questions about much that is transpiring, and have felt, as this one says, that you can't speak as publicly as you think, but you also can't speak sometimes even amongst the circles that you believe are privileged. This person writes, and I'll may look at it and speak. I try to quote from some of the comments, but the person speaks their perspective where in the society more people are more willing to get as much as they can as quick as they can without having to give anything, because as a person shares, maybe someone see the writings on the wall, and in short order came on, may just be another place that we pass through because it's too expensive, or we don't enjoy the way the society has changed. We don't seem to be no longer included in our society. And this person says, oh, and by the way, I just, can I say, I just didn't just wash up on the shore. I've been here for generations, and I don't feel as if, this is my home anymore. I've sent a message back to the person to elaborate. Let's see if they respond. But is that something that we're hearing, in our own circles? That it's not just the expense, it's the changed society. You don't feel as safe, you don't feel as included, you don't feel there's as much to do. Your dollar doesn't go as far, and there's this constant discord. Now, if that is happening, what are we doing? What can we do? And do we blame the government, whether that's the elected or otherwise? Do we draw alongside and offer up assistance? Is there something we can do? As an example, many of our communities have cleanups on a regular basis on specific occasions. Now, you might say, boy, that's 5:30 in the morning, that's 7:30 in the morning, that's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It's not a convenient time for you, and this probably isn't for many of us. We're still, sleeping because we're just getting off work, or we're getting ready to go to work, or there's another activity. But can we help out in some way? Maybe we can't do it every time, but can we do it ever so often? But what if we were, doing our part to ensure that there wasn't any great need to have these community cleanups? Because as a community, we didn't dispose of our household garbage or other things just along the road. I would ask you to consciously look. There's a published cleanup, a particular area, lots of garbage bags are filled with all the roadside debris, from all the things that we just discarded. Sometimes we have to wonder, is it a deliberate, disrespectful way that we do it, or is it that, we didn't realize it just, flew out of our vehicles? Who knows? But by the next day, is it still noticeably clean, or has it been littered and filtered again? And 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. And as I go into the break, I'll say this consciously, hopefully, purposefully, and respectfully, that it isn't that we point fingers, it's them, and we may label them as being people who either, by their economic means or their skin color, or their nationality, or even the areas that they live. Perhaps what we need to do, if we're going to label, and I'm not one to ascribe to it, maybe we can say, they're nasty people, and they come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. Or they're people without class, because money can't buy class. So your fancy $100,000 vehicle, or the fact that you're driving along in something that someone would say is a jalopy, doesn't mean that because you're driving that you're a person that is prone to just litter. It's what's in your heart. So money can't buy class, and someone, could really, really take some instruction. All right, let's pause and take that break, and when we come back, more talk today.
We wanna go and dally,
Backyard, Caymanian and Jamaican cuisine. 7 Mile Beach might have changed, but Backyard is bringing it back. True Caribbean food in the heart of 7 Mile, just like Mama's home cooking. Brown stew snapper, Cayman style beef, jerk chicken, turtle stew, and the delicious list goes on. Dine in, take out, or order with the Bento app. Backyard, Caymanian and Jamaican cuisine, 269 West Bay Road, or call 746-4603. Backyard, daily lunch specials, and the one-of-a-kind Fun Day Sunday brunch.
Backyard.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray, and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
The best foundation you can wear is glowing, healthy skin. The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter specialize in enhancing your skin's well-being. Whether you're seeking advanced skincare, including any skin cancers, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email drporterkman@gmail.com or call 946-9020. That is 946-9020.
As the community continues to take precautions from COVID-19, it is important to stay prepared for other disasters now that we're in the hurricane season. Here are some post-hurricane safety tips from the Department of Environmental Health. Cistern water designated for the purposes of drinking, cooking, and bathing must be disinfected before use after a hurricane. Simply leave the water for 1 minute after it begins to boil, or to disinfect with bleach, add 3 ounces of chlorine bleach to every 1,000 gallons of water. A residual bleach smell is an indicator that the water has been properly disinfected. For full guidance on post-hurricane safety tips, visit www.deh.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome, Mike. And thanks very much for joining us. And we were just probably about to read a press release. Maybe we should probably, whatever I just did, send it somewhere and possibly to our newscast here. It was in relation, it was from the West Cayman Islands Universe Committee, and it's in relation to the scenario where they basically shared the circumstances and the vetting and, their ongoing sort of review. But, now, ask me what I did and how I did it, and I can't tell you that it wasn't that I may have deleted it. Well, let's take this caller. Good afternoon, welcome, thanks for calling.
Hey, Sterling, good afternoon.
Hey, how are you today?
I'm enjoying a beautiful afternoon on the block.
Good, man. I'm hearing a bit of feedback from you. If you're near a speaker or radio or something. No, that's okay, man. That's okay. Thanks for listening, and certainly thanks for taking time to call. Certainly want to hear from you.
Yeah, well, I've been now calling for a couple of weeks, but I hear you're struggling there trying to get someone to call. But anyway, I don't really want to get into this discrimination thing with these people around Cayman Brock, especially. I not too much know about Grand Cayman anymore, but
right.
Cayman Brock is one of the places where my heart is, and I got to try to defend what I can defend around this place. But we got one American woman here, this new son on this island here, that it looked like she's not afraid of nobody because of her money. But it seemed like the law can't frighten her. It don't seem like anybody can frighten her because they put a road out to the shore, which is opposite of her home.
Mm-hmm.
And she still faced enough to block the road. I just cross again, and her vehicle blocking the road again, that people can't drive out and look at the ocean in peace because she thinks that the whole area is hers. But that is one thing I want to call on, and then I want to topic on another issue that some things should be done. I don't know. I don't think it could probably ever be done because we only have one shipping company, and that's Thompson, to be back and forth to these islands here. But we have to receive our stuff on this island by a barge, and unpredictable weather. That barge coming from Grand Cayman to the Brock in this unpredictable weather. These containers is rolling around on this ship. Vehicles is up in these things. People's windows is up in these containers. It just destructful of the things that coming off of this barge that come here on the Brock. People's vehicles mash up. Their stuff is mashed up. I mean, I remember one man used to come on the talk show from here on the Brock. I don't think you probably wouldn't have knew him, or you might have been much younger. But he always used to use a term, and I'll never forget it. He said, the Cayman Islands had gotten like a lobster going astern all the time. Sterling, if you think that's a joke, you take my advice this afternoon. That is so true, because when Cayman Brock was in the time that we know people has remembered Cayman Brock, we had ships coming here, roll on and roll off, ships of size huge ships would come here and bring our stuff on this island. Meisner Marine had put down $1 million dock there for us, and we went right down to the lobster crawling backwards to say they sent us a barge that when the weather so bad we got to accept what they sent us, and then they still really and truly. I mean, when are we gonna turn from being the backside of the hog? I don't get it. I don't get it. When are we gonna be the head of the hog? It is so sad to know that our country can't live up to the expectations of where we are. We are supposed to be a country that is in time, not a time forgotten. It is sad.
You know, and I guess sometimes with many things, you know, out of sight, out of mind, and maybe those of us on Grand Cayman don't understand the plight of those of our family and friends on the back and on Little Cayman. But how do we address that? And it's not just about allocating costs that we get value for money. It's about respecting lives and appreciating, as you said, you know, your goods can come over there, and not to say that goods aren't damaged in transshipment, no matter the state, but how do we address that? How do we make sure that you get better service, more timely, more cost effective, and feel more respected?
Sterling, the thing about it is, until we have someone of importance that living on this island, something happened to them. Let's say, for instance, through that same barge bringing something for them, and it completely destroyed. That is when the bucket got hit the bottom of the well. But until that, things ain't gonna get no better, because we don't have no one to speak up in this country for this little island. We are being forgotten. The only time we remembered here is during the politician times, the times of politics of election. That's the only time Cayman Brac is remembered. Little Cayman is in the same mess, because Little Cayman has to get the same service that we are receiving here with this barge.
But do you realize that?
And the thing about it is, we only have one shipping company that are sending this service to the Brac and Little Cayman, and that's Thompson Shipping. We don't have no other company to come in here and bring us anything. But the thing about it is, whether we have one company or not, you got to tell me that they can't send a decent ship when the weather is unpredictable to bring the stuff for Cayman Brac.
Yeah, but I mean, to your point, right? Voters on Grand Cayman across all of the little bits and pieces that we chopped it up into now would say the same thing. The one time they get any attention is during, you know, the campaign, during the elections. You know, other than that, they feel, whether they are or not, but they express that they feel, you know, neglected until there's an election. So if that is happening across the country, and if you are publicly expressed in the Grand Cayman and on the Brac, isn't it then for us now to look at it and say, as citizens of a country, this should be the standard of excellence across the entire country, no matter where you live, and this should be what we should expect and nothing less.
That's the way it should be. That is the way it should be. But until the government come down to grips and realize that a barge was not designed for the open ocean, not of that size. Something of 300-400 feet, I can understand. Of one of those huge barges, that's different, because that is carrying a different type of material or whatever they are taking on board. But when I was in St. Louis and Chicago and the areas there, they only use barges in the rivers that link in the Mississippi and stuff like that. That's where barges are used. Them places doesn't have currents and waves. We are in a dire need for something serious. Now, why would government go to the expense back then in the 80s to put down something that we had probably one of the best docks in the Caribbean at the time back then? That was a long time ago. We were up in beside. I don't think Grand Cayman dock was to the capacity of what we had here. Ours wasn't as wide, but our dock extended out in the water, which made it more accessible for ships to come in on all 3 to 4, because it's shaped almost like a Y. So you can approach from the west, you can approach from the north, the northeast, and the southeast. And on that dock, you have many choices where barge ships can come here and do what they have to do, and yet we have to settle for something as simple as a barge. I think it's high time that people start to speak up and try to listen and understand what people are saying around these places, instead of like what my father say, don't wait till Albert finish talking and go and sit down up under the almond tree and bite up on the gums. I mean, this radio station is there for people to be disrespected, but the radio station is there, especially the show like this, darling, that you're so diligently doing for people to voice their opinions and reach out for the people of the Cayman Islands to try to help. That is what this thing is for us to where we can try to see ourselves floating in a different environment from where we are. We feel like we are just being neglected in every way that we can possibly think of.
Yeah.
It's like they just forgot about Kim and Brock. I don't understand it. If you was to come up here and see how that barge has to be next to the side of that dock, and those young men working on those containers there, and that thing is rocking left and right. I used to work it before, and I almost got killed there, and that's what made me stop. And to know that people things has to come on this piece of junk. I call it a piece of junk because I never heard about a barge operation dragging containers and people groceries and not groceries, people produce and stuff across in the ocean. It's high time that people put their hats on their head and try walk and make sure, like what an old man has said, when my hat is on my head, my whole family covered. When is the government going to try to cover us?
Right. Well, again, is it then for? I take your point. The political leadership needs to step up, but then where are we as the voters and the citizens to ensure that they do?
The thing about it is, when they got to realize where we are and where we got to step up. When the election time come around, like what I told many politicians before, I say, listen, I see on a year round, and when I went on the SEMA and I can't even raise on a hand, I say, when that time comes for that 4 years to come around, don't anyone on the dare think on to come near Bamboo Bay and put on the foot in James Christian Yard. Don't come near. These are the things that people around these islands got how to get back to, is seriousness of telling people, listen, if one can't help us within that 4 year period, don't come around us. Don't come around, because we do not need lies. My father always used to say, a promise is a comfort of a fool's heart. And that's basically what it gives us. All it gives us is promises. One old man has said it took about 27 of them come from Grand Cayman one year to bring a promise up here, which the people has never seen yet. So when they come and talking about, okay, I remember some time ago, they say they were going to start to try to get a ship from Grand Cayman to assist us here with bringing our stuff back and forth to this island. A bigger ship, not a barge. And Sterling, I don't know where that ever went. They must, you talk about sweep it under? No, they don't sweep it. They use a blower and push it under the table. And that is how we are. We are blown apart because we are being forgotten. That is the thing.
All right, I know it's almost time to go, or it is, but two things. One, listener's asking, what about using air freight?
Air freight is that's an asset to when the weather is bad, but the air freight is costly. It can get costly because that airplane can only cost a certain amount, whether the train order or whether the jet. And you imagine you got 50, 60 people that ordering stuff. You put the weight together, common sense would tell you it's not going to work. I order stuff from Grand Cayman numerous amount of times, and the barge can't come, but that's like 4 or 5 boxes from Cost You Less or Price Right or wherever. And the price on that is almost twice the cost of what I clear 8 to 10 boxes from Thompson when the barge come. So air freight is going to cost a lot more. It can be if we had a freight plane backing the stuff back and forth. Yeah, that is food material. But I am talking about people bringing in their windows and things for their homes, because hurricane season, some people swaps their windows. I'm not saying it happened there a year. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is all homes that windows have to be repaired, they cannot buy the windows here, so they have to buy them from Grand Cayman or the States. And if things like that come, they're going to come broken. People bring in these vehicles from Japan or wherever they're coming from, even from Grand Cayman. They come in mashed up and destroyed. Some of them can't even be repaired when you look at them. But for people to just say, well, use that is not that is a band-aid over a wound. That cannot heal and cure the problem. The problem is that the government needs to step up and say, listen, we need to put something in place for Kim and Brock, at least during the times that the weather is bad. We need to put a place in place for a ship to bring the stuff Kim and Brock in a safe manner. That is what I'm talking about.
All right, man. I appreciate you sending your thoughts, all right?
Thank you, Sterling. I'll talk to you another time.
Anytime, man. Have a great afternoon. Appreciate your insight. And to all our listeners, and remember now tomorrow, we invite you at 1 p.m. Miss Katina Anglin will be our guest as the event comes up at the end of the month at Lions Center. We'll talk about that. Hopefully the Honorable Minister for Health will start things out and share with us just for a few minutes at the outset. Well, that's what tomorrow brings, and we want you to start off your day with Mr. Art. Join him for the record on a Friday morning. Take you wonderfully into the weekend. Until then, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours.